Oh yeah, this is what I'll use. Let's talk a little bit about the pen. This pen is the Bic Cristal Renew, which is to commemorate the 70th anniversary of Bic. The metal body is definitely cool, but I can't help but think that I would have enjoyed the clear plastic bodied ones more. Pretty sturdy, like it would definitely be hard to break. Though the cap is plastic, it does have this cool mechanism to dispense the cartridge. This singular pen was $12. When I was 10 years old, I asked for a feather pen. And at the time, I didn't know that they were called quill pens. It looked something like this. It was not this. It was a more simple design. It was my first foray into classic writing instruments. And when I think back to how books and documents were written in the past, I always think of the quill pen. And I know there were, even way before that, people writing with reed pens and writing on clay and the fingers of our ancestors writing on the walls of caves. There's so much nuance of information that you can get from a web search. Eventually, the fountain pen, where a reservoir of ink was kept, was invented. There are patents going as far back as 1827, but this story is not focused on that. This story is focused on the ballpoint pen, which was invented in 1888, this revolutionary design of a ball-moving paste-like ink around on the page instead of unwieldy water-based fountain pen ink is, according to the internet, correlated with the accessibility of learning, reading, and writing. We can all thank the ballpoint pen for getting us into school. It wasn't until the 1950s when a French guy named Marcel Bic perfected the ballpoint pen design. And it went from being a bit messy and unwieldy to now completely reliable. And thus, that same uncapped pen you find at the bottom of your book bag while cleaning it out at the end of the school that surprisingly still worked was born. The Bic Cristal with an I. And now, this is where I really begin. Now, as I said before, fundamentally, a lot of our written history was done with a quill pen or something even older. Because of the ballpoint pen, more regular people who weren't scholars or educators or fancy or writers were using pens. So this journey is about giving this iconic pen a chance. And if it were to be the only pen to ever exist, again, would I still handwrite? Let's find out. So I haven't sat down to write with a pen like this since I was in school. I do use them occasionally while at work or writing down a grocery list, but it's always like quick things of note, not of ideas. To sit down, to take a notebook, sit down and use something like this where I'm writing a deliberate, creative idea or a piece of prose or part of my handwritten novel is a different story. I'd forgotten that I have to press harder in order to get the ink to run. It's an oil-based ink, more like a paste, so it doesn't flow as readily like a fountain pen ink. Also, my inclination is to write sideways because that's how I write with a fountain pen. But then I notice that over time the letters don't appear complete, so I have to instinctually move my hand up in order to help it along. I noticed in longer sessions using this pen, my hand gets much more fatigued than it would using a fountain pen, and that, I don't know, is that kind of obvious? My print is atrocious. It always has been. And I always chalked it up to being left-handed. For some reason, when I print, it's like my hand doesn't move in the way my brain is telling it to. So that's why I always gravitated toward cursive writing. But cursive is not really that fun with this pen. And I kind of find it to also look pretty bad. I want to rush with this pen like it's made for urgency. I could definitely see using this pen if I have a jolt of an idea and I just need to get it down quickly. Using something like this seems more sensible in a situation like that, especially waking up at 2 a.m. and trying to find anything to use. This seems like it would be better in those situations than with a fountain pen. So day one of writing with this pen, I had this sudden urge to start writing backwards. I have this sudden urge to just like put the pen to the paper and doing random doodles or swirls. It reminds me of when I would doodle on the sides of my notebooks when I was in school. This is a good user pen that I think it was essentially made for, to oppose the elitism of a fountain pen. Just get the job done. There's no refilling, no mess. It writes literally on any type of paper. I have this really cheap unbranded notebook, and I don't feel bad like using up pages on random doodles and whatnot. But the final question, can I see myself packing up this pen and notebook with purpose to go out on a adventure, to go record my ideas or poetry or prose or other something creative endeavor? Not currently. My fountain pens are still that full encompassing idea of what writing brings for me, the joy that writing brings for me, because as I've said before, it's not just about getting my thoughts out. It's the whole package. It's like the way the pen feels on the page, the way I see the letters form on the page, the sound a page makes, the ideas in my head forming, coming to light, and the way they're written and the way my cursive looks. It's a full-bodied experience. This feels like utility, and I like the way it fits in my pocket. So something like this I would maybe take to work, because it's for quick notes, it's for taking down numbers, it's for the grocery list. I write with fountain pens not because they're fancy or expensive. That's the last part of why I write with them, but because I like old things, things that remind me of the past, for the smooth, calming effect, for the ritual of it all, for the flow state of using half the energy to write sentences. And the ballpoint just doesn't elicit that for me. I understand its purpose, its need, its utility in getting the job done when the world already demands so much of us. I mentioned before that I exclusively journaled in fountain pens, but that doesn't include past schoolwork or what I currently write in my job. Those things have always been done with like either gel pens or just cheap writing utensils. Where I work it's a fast-paced environment, and don't get me wrong, I have entertained the thought of using a fountain pen there. It's not plausible. So this entire time at my job, writing down information, dates, labels, and the occasional creative idea on a sheet of pastry paper has been done with this Bic permanent marker. We have boxes of them at my job, unbeknownst to me. The idea still stands. I adore my fountain pens, and in a moment of deliberate writing, of writing for me, I will always choose them over anything else, to sit down at my desk, to grab my notebook and my pen, or to pack it up and go outside. That is what I'll have. However, there are times when I have to use what is available in the moment. And if that means feeding out some receipt paper and scribbling my idea with this permanent marker while in between a rush at work, I'm not going to stop myself just because I don't have my fountain pen and fancy Japanese notebook. That being said, using this Bic pen was fun. I really like the way it looks, but I'm still not a fan of the way the ballpoint feels, and that's just a personal opinion. I love having a variety of writing things. It's what scratches that itch for me. I'll always be interested in the differences, in the nuances. And still, when I pop out of bed in the half-dark, rummaging through my desk for a scrap of anything, the idea fuzzy at the edges, already waning with the disturbance of wakefulness, and then start scribbling those words that I could hardly even see if I'm writing straight because I don't have my glasses on, but hope I'll be able to decipher it in the morning, that transcends the rudimentary act of writing. It's hard to explain, but it feels like something else, like trying to explain the universe through language, or like a parasite that I physically need to expel from my body, because if I don't, it will fester and eat away at me. I know, it's a crude description. And the movements, while similar, it's not the same to me as grabbing a notebook and a tea and making sure my pen is filled and then humming to myself as I sit down and take my time to flesh out my ideas and reference a thesaurus or the internet for accuracy, and then reading back what I've written in a slow, deliberate manner. Anyways, messages always: use what you use, do what brings you joy, and thanks for watching.